Glad we said nothing but nice things about Sarah.
This time? This time.
She's ignoring me as usual.
But Mallory's a different question.
Mallory's the best.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm fine. It's just, it's one of those planning fails, you know what I mean? It's like, the developer should have put it in, you know? I'm sure that they just didn't. Yeah. It's like I mean, when it rains, there is like a giant pool of water right there. Right, right.
Very shallow drainage ditch, but in order to get a permit from MoDOT, we would have to show plans for the drainage, for signal actualization.
Mallory.
Anyway, for the signals, and then they also wanted us to provide KCATA, which
If they
is
do,
fine, but we're not even addressing the drainage.
right,
Here he
right.
comes.
If they do, though, one thing I've noticed getting off the bus at that stop is the bus stop is like far back from the light, and it's kind of amusing because almost every time they drop me, and then they pull up to the light and stop anyway. So I'm like, it like would save me like about 20 seconds of walking, but like it would make sense if we were right at that intersection, I think. So if you end up talking to them.
He's going to do the Elvis.
It's more. I'm fine. It's more like if someone who isn't as good on their feet as I am, you know, obviously.
There's going to be some fist pounding on the.
Okay, cool. I appreciate
I think
it.
I have to start.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
You'll do okay. I did it for 8 years. We'll find our way through.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. We're going to call this Planning Commission meeting of North Kansas City, August 3rd, 2017 at 6 p.m. We're going to call it to order. First order of business is to approve tonight's agenda. The chair will entertain motion for that.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and approved or seconded that the agenda be approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. We're going to move on to the really fun stuff of the evening. We're going to elect new officers, and I just wanted to say, you know, Kevin did us a good job, and I thanked him for his service via email. I will, if it's okay, we're going to elect a chairperson and a secretary. And if you would all permit me, I'm going to let Byron start with the nominations for chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Jonathan Barnes for our chairperson of the Planning Commission. So I'll put that forward as a motion.
Very good. I would second that.
It's a great idea.
Okay, so do we need to do an individual, or just can we just, okay, all in favor of Jonathan Barnes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Can, but it still carries.
It's too late. It's too late.
Too late, so. Why don't you go ahead and take over? We need to do a secretary as well.
Okay. So I will take or open the floor to nominations for secretary.
Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Laura to be our secretary.
Sure, I'll be the secretary.
I like that. You don't need to go for official vote. We're just going to grab it. I like that.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming. Go
Right.
ahead.
I'm just giving her time. So
That's your last name for me.
It's hard. You ready?
Yes.
Mahula.
Makala.
Fast 3 times, come on. We have to
Right.
vote on it.
we have to actually vote. Yeah, we got to say we have to vote. Dave was a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Perfect. So we'll,
Thank you guys for stepping up. Thank you.
absolutely. I'm excited. Move on to the approval of the minutes of July 2nd, 2017.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Perfect. So move on to consideration of the final plat for North Kansas City designation developers. Destination, sorry. They're making me look bad already. Gosh. So again, I opened the public, no public hearing on this one. So then the next step is just ask Sarah. Okay. So ask Sarah for the city staff comments. Okay. Sarah, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So for plating, you all approved the preliminary plat for this area. And then the next step is for the developer to prepare the final plat. Staff does review that to make sure that it's in compliance with the approved preliminary plat. After you make a recommendation to the city council, they'll take final action to approve the plat before it's recorded. So there's no public hearing on this because you already did that with the preliminary plat, and you're making a recommendation tonight to the city council. Do you want me to go ahead and move into staff report?
Yes, please.
Okay, hold on a second. I lost my spot here.
When we get there, I have one question. Easy question.
Sure. So the vicinity map that we included in your packet tonight shows the entire area that's part of this preliminary or this final plat, in addition to some property that has already been platted by the third plat for Armour Road redevelopment area that was just last month or the month before. The parcels that are shown here don't include that third plat because we haven't gotten that from the county yet. So it's a little bit more than what's included in the final plat. So when we go through the application analysis, this final plat creates 4 buildable lots in addition to 3 tracks, 4 tracks, and dedicates right-of-way for Mill Street. We find that the final plat is in conformance with all the criteria for final plats in the municipal code. And you did have 3 conditions on the approval of the preliminary plat. One was that right-of-way and easements will be dedicated, which they are. This shows all of the easements needed for the planned infrastructure through the area. The declarations of conditions, covenants, and restrictions would be reviewed and approved by staff. These were approved by the City Council on July 18th and addressed an owners association for this area to provide for ownership and maintenance of common elements, and that would include tracks A, C, and D. 2 of those are the stormwater detention for the area, and that we would have an access easement to reach tract B from the Mill Street right-of-way, and that's shown. That comes around and enters tract B on the north side to avoid our solar panels that are there next to the sewer pump station. So the preliminary plat contains 7 lots. This has 4 in it. We expect lot 3 to be further divided at some point in the future. The applicant is here if you have any additional questions, but staff would recommend approval of the final plat.
Questions?
Just my one question. So if I understand this right, plats 1, 2, and 4 have already been sort of divided, and plat 3 could still be divided in the future.
Right. Lot 1 is expected to be apartment development. Lot 2 is expected to be drive, which we'll talk about next. Lot 4, not really sure what the tenant will be, but it's the right size for some kind of development. Lot 3 is really large, and we are expecting and working with the master developer for this area that would be further subdivided. But if
Gotcha.
you have specific questions.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha. Thank you.
Would the folks here like to add anything to that before, or? Good, you don't have to, I'm just giving you the opportunity.
Mark Abbott with Polsinelli for the developer. If you guys have any questions, happy to talk about it. Correct, on Lot 3, there's still 4 or 5 different iterations that we're working on right now to how to puzzle in the various pieces of Lot 3, so we'll come and divvy that up later. But, yeah, no questions for me. I'm happy to take a seat.
I have some tangentially related questions just because I'm curious, if
Sure.
you wouldn't mind answering them. Maybe everyone might know the answer to these already, but the big structure that's already going up right there, what is that?
That is my Rado's jewelry that's
Ah.
on Armour, and that is actually separate from our project.
It's not on the any of the site
Not
itself.
Well,
Oh, okay.
it's Lot 1 of the first plat for
Oh.
Armour Road redevelopment.
Okay.
Correct, and we're just south of that.
Oh, okay.
So
Also, can you bring Trader Joe's to that development?
we are, one of the requirements for the master developer is to bring in a grocery store, so we are
I
pursuing
realize,
a
yeah.
variety of different.
Okay. Sarah's like, I'm embarrassed by the planning commission. Okay, cool.
We've been going around asking anybody, do you know Trader Joe's personally? So you,
I
Encourage
wish,
him to
I
come
wish
to-
I did. I wish I did.
Yeah, I think everyone would be really happy with that option.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming. Any questions? Okay. Well, I'll let you sit down before you get any more solicitations for, so I think now I'll entertain a motion on the item. Is that okay?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we recommend approval of the final plat for the North Kansas City Destination Development.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Great.
We expect this to be on the August 15th City Council agenda for final approval.
Perfect. So moving on, so we do have a public hearing. So in consideration for a conditional use permit for Drive, to open the public hearing. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't take it. Just say it. Just open the public. So open the public hearing is now open. Seeing we don't have any. Okay, yeah, so seeing we don't have anybody here that wants to speak, we'll
You
take
asked
staff
that.
comments. You close it, I have to close it, okay.
No, you don't have to, don't do it yet.
Oh, no, okay, yeah, okay.
So we usually start with an overview of the procedure. So conditional use permits require a public hearing before the Planning Commission. We did publish notice in the Kansas City Star, posted our signs, and sent mailed notices. The mailed notices didn't go to very many people because this area is surrounded by property owned by the city and the railroad. So not many notices were mailed, but we did it. We do have the applicant here, and usually we have the applicant start giving you an overview of the project, and then we'll follow up with staff comments and recommendations.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Lenahan from Yeager Architecture. We're the architects for Drive Golf and Brew, and you all have the packet of design information for this project that was sent in with the application. And I'm fighting a bit of a cold, so I'm going to be as brief as I can. But the project is a 65,000 square foot building with 90 some odd golf driving bays on 3 stories. Includes a brewery restaurant and supplemental bars in the facility, along with a rooftop patio deck and putting green and 200-yard range. The most comparable facility that people are probably familiar with is Topgolf, which is down in Overland Park here. This brand uses a different technology than the Topgolf guys do for tracking ball play. So they feel like that gives them a bit different player experience, and then the addition of the brewery to their brand and component as a differentiator. This will be the first of the drive facilities that gets built, so looking at properties in Wichita currently, and also some other properties out east with these guys, so they're looking to expand and do additional properties. This is about 12 acres. The site plan that you've seen includes 470 some odd parking spaces. We provided some justification for what we think is the right number of parking spaces based upon the comparison with similar types of facilities and their parking requirements, as well as comparison with previous Topgolf facilities. And I believe Sarah's staff report makes some reference to tying down a minimum number as a result of that calculation, which is perfectly fine with us. The other kind of significant component of the facility is the netting that's designed to contain golf drives, which can get quite a bit of altitude and quite a bit of distance. So they have a netting system similar again to what you see at the Topgolf, about 150 foot high, plus poles, stringing a netting system between those. The netting is translucent enough we couldn't render it very well in our drawings, so we just indicated the boundaries of it. And we're excited about the project. We think it's going to be an exciting one. So be happy to let Sarah do her report here and then take any questions.
Sure.
Great.
Staff comments?
If you don't have any questions for the applicant, I'll go ahead. I wanted to point out just a few things from the staff report. One is that first of all, you are being asked to do two different things tonight. One is to establish that minimum parking requirement, and one is to make a recommendation to the City Council about the conditional use permit. So we will be asking you to make two separate motions on this item. And one of the reasons, two of you pointed out that our discussion of criteria F at the end was cut off in your staff reports. When we got into this at first and talking to Patrick and his team, we're thinking that the poles are higher than our height limit for the zoning district. I'm thinking that we might have to address that as a variance. But in talking to our colleagues out in Overland Park, they pointed out to us that they had addressed that there through their special use permit process, which was a good illumination for us that these are integral to the use. You don't have a driving range without making sure that the balls aren't going to hit the railroad. They, I'm sure, would not appreciate that, or neighboring property. So that's why we sent you a revised staff report to say this is part of this conditional use, and we'll address this as a condition because it's necessary for the use to be in this location. We do expect, because the lot is currently undeveloped, that we will have a higher level of traffic generated by this use than we do have there now. But I would point out that we have been expecting this for quite a while, and so the infrastructure in this area has been planned to accommodate this increase in traffic and changes to the character of the currently undeveloped area. We do have several conditions that we're recommending for this conditional use permit. I don't think any of them are anything shocking. 3 of them are kind of our typical conditions that we place on all conditional uses, number 4, 5, and 6. And the others are about the poles and the trash dumpsters and exterior lighting. Those were also recommendations from our friends at Overland Park, things that they learned in dealing with their own Topgolf facility. For the parking requirement, they're showing 472 parking spaces for this site. We're recommending that you establish a parking requirement that's a little under that, just to give us some flexibility as we finish doing site plan review and plan review with the buildings. In case there are minor changes that are made, we're not coming back to you to say we need to vary this parking requirement that you've established in the next few months. So that just gives us a little bit of flexibility as things get finalized with the site plan. So staff would recommend setting the parking requirement of 460 parking spaces and a recommendation of approval to the City Council with the 6 conditions that are listed in your staff report.
If I may, I would add that we reviewed all those conditions with the ownership, and they're in agreement with all of those.
Do we have any questions?
Just one, the condition that we are proposing or the staff recommends is the exterior lighting shall be directed or shielded so light does not fall into surrounding properties or create glare in public right-of-ways. How would you see that would be addressed?
We'll provide photometric diagrams during the construction document phase for permits. It'll show that there's 0 foot candles at the property lines from all the lights that are employed in the project.
This is more of a question, I think, more for Sarah. Do we, I guess I know this has been brought up in previous planning commission meetings about just general parking in the city. Is there any plan, not necessarily responsible for Drive, but just for the development in general for the use of parking garages to get more density in parking, or is this all going to be surface parking?
As far as I know, the developer is not planning to do any structured parking at this time.
Okay.
I have a question too. So, well, I guess I'll start with at the beginning of my questions. So, the staff report. Sorry, I just realized I was talking out of the microphone. The staff report says that currently the city's general requirement for this zoning district for this use is 4.5 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet. So doing the math on that, that would get just under 300 spaces. This is a really large discrepancy between that and what the city's recommending, and I'm just wondering if you can explain why you think that many parking spaces is actually needed.
Well, in this case, we are really looking at the applicant to show how many they need to support the business of the tenant.
Mm-hmm.
In talking to Overland Park, their experience has been that for the most part, the site that they have is underparked based on demand for people coming to that facility. And speaking with Leslie Carr out there, she said it's not always full. There are times when there are less people out there, but it's full most of the time. And so that's why the parking analysis that they submitted looked at really kind of 2, maybe 3, I don't have it open in front of me, uses. There's the driving range, there's the restaurant, and there's I think he's had the brewery separated out there too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of easy to say how much parking a restaurant or a brewery might need based on their size, but Drive is still different enough, and our experience so far, and also when you looked at the other facilities like this around the country, the demand that they bring is higher, such that we feel like this is a reasonable parking requirement to support that tenant in that space.
I might also add too that when Drive came into this market and looked at this location for one, and then compared this location and what the Topgolf experience has been down at Overland Park, where they have had parking challenges, that facility is not even visible from the interstate highway down there, and this is going to be incredibly visible from I-29, I-35. We really believe this is going to draw a significant amount of traffic into the facility, but by virtue of its location. And when that factor is combined with the brew pub component that we have in this facility that is not part of what Topgolf has, and having determined then that we are providing a parking count that is greater than what on average the Topgolf people have, and is greater than the ratios we usually see for restaurants and those kinds of facilities, that was the number that we felt really comfortable with to make sure that we had adequate parking, particularly for the peak weekend times that this is gonna generate. So.
Well, following up on that then, given the fact that you all think that this much parking is necessary, and as you said, specifically for the peak weekend times, I'm wondering if there's any potential for some shared parking. Like, it seems like a lot of spaces to me. I don't know, because like you guys did the analysis to see, and you know the industry, but you did mention that there's this sort of jump on the weekend, and I imagine that that's when most people have time to golf, right? So I'm wondering if I don't know like what the configuration is with neighboring businesses and properties, but I'm wondering if there's the potential to utilize the parking by others.
That's kind of a problem right now because we don't know what the other uses are going to be right now.
Right.
If there were similar and compatible uses or uses that had peak usage that was different than our peak usage, then we can probably negotiate a cross parking easement. We'd like to kind of see whether it is in fact going to be a problem. You know, we think we've got enough parking as it is currently, and if there is a problem, then we can negotiate some additional parking access with adjacent properties. We don't want to overbuild the parking, as you suggested. There's such a thing as too much parking as well. So we want to make sure we have the right number. We think we have the right number right now.
Yeah. Well, maybe if it turns out that it is too much, then that would be especially an opportunity to talk about shared parking.
There's also a little bit of a phenomenon when it first opens. It'll peak at the beginning
Sure.
because everybody will be interested in it, and then
Yeah.
it'll kind of find its rhythm of what the peak times are and what the peak crowds are. So.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Any more questions?
I've got a rather strange one. I'll pull out my Eagle Scout Environmental Science Merit Badge here. So I've seen the nets down at Top Golf, and they're pretty high and in a substantial area. One thing I wondered if you guys have thought about or considered or studied is, you know, especially what I've noticed living here the last 6 years, we have a lot of geese, a lot of waterfowl, a lot of birds, especially because the river is kind of in a crossing path. Is that something that you guys anticipate as an issue? Is there some way to consider the potential impacts there? You know, I'm sure it can't be good for business if, you know, a goose runs into your net. I don't know, but.
I'll be honest, we haven't had any discussions about geese. The drive range itself will be using artificial sports turf, so that'll at least not provide an attraction for geese to graze on. And I would say the surrounding environment, you know, with the railroad yard down there is not entirely hospitable for geese, although it may be more so for pigeons. But,
pigeons, just, yeah, I mean, birds in general, I don't
Right,
know.
right.
It might work itself over time, but, you know, when the net first goes up, you have migratory birds that have been using an area for years and years and years, and all of a sudden they're crashing into your net. It might be something to think about.
We haven't had those discussions. I honestly haven't heard any issues with that at Top Golf either.
Okay.
And there's a lot of news stories out there about Top Golf, and if you search, you'll mostly find it's people falling into the safety nets when they complete their drive
Another
after they've
hazard,
had a
yeah.
few beers. So good videos about that.
Okay, just a comment. No thought.
Right.
And if I could, I just want to make a comment. It might be better for the comments from commissioners, but I wanted to say, well, these folks were here. I mean, I'm definitely don't want to stand in the way of progress. So I'm really excited about Drive, and I'm excited about One North and everything like that. But it's kind of over the general parking theme that we've had. We don't know what we don't know, but at some point in this city, somewhere, be it One North, be it downtown, or possibly in both, somebody's gonna have to build a parking garage at some point. And I think we just need to be mindful of that. And we're not at that point yet, in my opinion. I don't know how everybody else feels, but at some point, as we get more things, when Laura's Trader Joe's comes to One North, you know, when we get all those folks coming to Trader Joe's, the parking is going to be an issue. And at some point, I know I can't speak for everybody else, but I am going to personally say, don't come here with something that says we're going to do some more surface parking. Someone's going to figure out a parking structure somewhere. So. Sorry, I'm not picking on you. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of wanted to say that and just so everyone kind of aware of kind of where I stand kind of on the general issue of parking in the city.
I swear I didn't pay him to say that.
I'd like to say that Google knows everything, and there was a bird caught in a Top Golf driving range net
Oh, there you go.
in Virginia Beach. A bird, though.
The whole point is that it might be a little bit different because with the river being right there,
Yeah.
you have a completely different scenario than you have down in the middle of Overland Park, I think. So it's something to think about, maybe try to possibly study, analyze, plan for, something like that.
If the nets were not black, it might help, I was thinking. If they could see them better.
Yeah, I have no idea what they think when they come up on that in the last second. But.
Well, do we have any more questions for the gentleman or for Sarah? Okay, so close the public hearing now. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you for your time, appreciate it. So I will entertain one of two motions on, the first of two motions on the parking requirement for PC 2017-14.
I'd like to make a motion that we set up a parking requirement for this development of 460 parking spaces on this site.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Perfect. And I will entertain a second motion on the CUP recommendation for 2017, PC 2017-14.
Again, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the CUP to the city council at this time with all recommendation conditions, all recommended conditions, pardon me.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
To also be on the August 15th city council agenda.
Perfect. So we can move on to comments from the public. Seeing there are none. Comments from staff?
I have no comments tonight.
Nothing? Nothing at
Well,
all?
I would
There
remind
we
you,
go.
there's the Kansas City section of APA is having their fall, although August to me still feels like summer symposium on the 11th. I'm hoping that you all would have gotten an email about it that they send out to all their members. If you're interested in going, would like us to handle your registration, just let us know.
Comments from commissioners? Mr. Farr?
Sir, I have a question. Now that we're down a commissioner, we still have a quorum, I understand, but we're at the quorum level right now.
Quorum is four
Four.
for the planning commission.
Do we, and I know it's up to the mayor, but we hopefully will have him looking for us.
I don't know if he has anyone in mind. I don't believe so. So I think that he'll be looking for someone.
That's all, thank you.
Perfect. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay? Great, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Just thank you, double the pay you had before.
I know, this is fantastic. Right, a sign.
Oh, yeah.
Sign
you
is
sign your-
kept.
Cross me out.
No. Oh, Laura, oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. I'll let her.
So Kevin moved, is that right?
Don't fly around it, but then I realized how many of them are building.
It seems like there's a lot of people are selling their stuff.
What kinda-
Oh, really?
Where are you moving?
I understand it was a big issue last time when I was out of town last month.
You know, Northtown's a great little city.